Hey there, John Morris here, and in this video we're going to talk about how to create your own custom PHP functions. And as a PHP developer, this is going to be the big thing that ultimately you do as you go forward, because what people are looking for is the ability for you as a developer to create functionality that isn't otherwise available or they can't get already. Okay, so you're going to do that with custom PHP functions. Okay, so learning how to write these is going to be the basis kind of for everything, and it's going to kind of take everything that you've learned in the previous lessons and about PHP and everything like that, and kind of bring it together a little bit. Not necessarily in the sense that we're going to cover absolutely everything in here, but in writing your own custom PHP functions, you're going to be using a lot of these other the other things that we've talked about and that we're going to talk about. And ultimately, it's going to lead into creating how to create your own PHP class and writing your own classes. And when you're at that level, that's when you're really going to be developing large-scale, high-profile type programs and scripts that people can use. So that's ultimately what we're leading up to. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive into writing your own PHP function. So how do you write your own PHP function? Well, as with all PHP, you start and you end at the same spot. Okay, so to write a function, then you're going to simply just create it and create the functionality inside of it. So what you're going to do is you're going to give your function a name. And so let's start off and we'll call this my custom function. Okay, so that's the basic kind of structure of how you create a function. You have function, you have the name of your function, you have a parentheses inside which is going to go any parameters that you may have for this custom function. And then you're going to have opening, closing curly brackets. And inside those curly brackets is where you're going to actually write the code that will allow your function to do whatever it does. So let's say, for example, that this custom function will print out a name and age, okay, since we've been working with that a lot. So we're going to create this function, and we're going to do echo actually we're going to do, this is what I was talking about earlier, results equal okay, and we're going to do results equal okay, and then when you're working with a function, ultimately what you get to is a return. So you're going to return results, okay? So this up here is going to build your results, and then you're going to return it. Now, if we take this and we come over to our demo page and refresh it, it's actually going to do nothing because we haven't actually used the function how it's supposed to be done. When you create a function like this, it's not going to actually execute. You have to call that function, okay? So the way we do that is first we need to set up our variables. So you notice that we have name and age down here, but we have to get those from somewhere. So we would do name, and then we do age. Now, when we call this function, we can specify the name and the age that gets passed to this function, and it will use those in its results. So even now, if we were to still come back over here and refresh, we're not going to get anything, okay? what we need to do now is come down and let's just pretend that we're on another page and we've included this a file with this list of functions into that page, and now we're going to call this function. So we open and close our PHP, and we're going to do, let's say, call this profile equals. Now we're going to call our function. So we write my custom function. Now we're going to specify what the name and age will be. So we'll say John Morris, and we'll say age, we'll leave it an integer, and we'll go 29. Okay. Now we can echo profile, and this is going to call this function and pass these parameters into it. So now John Morris will go into be set as the name variable, and 29 will be set as the age variable, and anywhere in our function where we use those variables, they'll be replaced with the parameters we passed to that function. So if we come back over to our page here, now you can see we have name John Morris, age 29. And if we come over here and we change this to 35 and we refresh, now you can see the age is 35. Okay, this is really the key or the core of what PHP is, because now you can come in here and write a custom function that does all kinds of crazy functionality and adds certain functionality, and you can simply from that point forward call that those functions and use those in your script. So here's an example of this. I created a plugin for WordPress called Wishlist SmartNav, and in that plugin, what it allowed you to do is it integrated with Wishlist Member, and it allows the admin of the site to display different menus, WordPress menus, based off of what membership level someone is a part of. So if they're part of the silver membership level, then they can get this they'll get this menu, and if they're part of the gold, they'll get a different menu, and so on. One of the things I always do with every script that I write is create what's called a functions.php file, as you can see here. And in that functions.php file, it's basically like a library of functions. You can see I have a number of different functions that I have in here. And then all I do is in my main file, you can see I require once that functions.php file, and then I can reference any functions inside of it, which of course this WL protected menu is a function right here inside. Okay, so that's how you use functions to create scripts. And when you're working with classes, you're really going to be doing the same thing, in the sense that most often your class that you create is just going to be kind of like a library of functions. Now, you can write a class where when you call that class, it does a specific thing and it outputs, for example, you create a class for a profile page and you call that class and you output the results of running that class, and it will output a profile page in a very specific way that you've outlined in that class. And so that one class is designed to do one thing, and that is to create that profile page. Okay, you could do it that way. A lot of times though, the way people use a class is more like just a library of functions, because when you call a class, and you're going to see this when we talk about writing a class, you can call specific functions within that class. So you don't have to call the entire class itself. You can just call the specific function within it and use specific functionality. So a lot of times what a class is it's just a library of different custom functions that someone can call and pull in to their scripts at different points. Okay, so creating and writing your own custom functions is kind of the core of what it is you do as a PHP programmer. And if we go and we look at the PHP manual, and let's just do a particular function here. If we look at this function, you can see it's just exactly the same thing as our own custom function. It's the name of the function and it's the parameters that you pass to it. Okay, so any function in PHP is going to be that same thing. Again, the name of the function, the parameters that you pass to it, the delimiter and the string, okay, in this particular case, and then the limit. That's all PHP is. It's just a bunch of functions that you can use. And that's, again, that is oversimplifying it, but that's the core of what it is. So writing these custom functions, that's what you're going to be doing. And it's really just as simple as function, my custom functions, the parameter it's going to accept, and then manipulating the data inside of that function in whatever way it is that you choose. Okay, so as we get further on, you know, already you should probably start getting ideas about how you can use this to start writing your own scripts and writing your own functions and things like that. And I encourage you to get out there because and start playing with it, because the absolute best way to learn is to get out there and do it and start actually building something. You can sit there and, you know, try and go through a bunch of training classes and all that stuff, and that's helpful and that's good to get you pointed in the right direction, but ultimately it's on you to get out there and do it. So the best thing to do is get out there and just start trying to write functions and start working with them and messing with them, and you will get it. Okay, so it's really just as simple as what I've shown you here. All right, so again, going forward, we're going to move into some more advanced stuff. We're going to get into writing classes and how you actually use this inside of classes and things like that. But that's kind of an intro or a primer into how to write your own custom function and how to call that function and you actually use it in a PHP page. So hopefully that was helpful for you, and I'll talk to you again soon.